Hey, Borgers, BJ from Game Gumbo here. I've got my guest here, Connie Vogelmann, and we're talking a game that you may have heard a little bit about out there. It's called Wyrmspan. It's from Stonemaier Games. It's going live actually tomorrow. Not sure when you're seeing this, but it's live and there's a lot of hype about it. That's not a word that some people like to use, but I don't mind using it about a game like this because everybody's talking about it. Connie, tell us the background. How did you get started on a game like Wyrmspan that follows such a big game? Where do you even begin with that?
Yeah. So just for sort of background, I had been working with Jamie and Stonemaier on Apiary, and Jamie asked if I would be interested in potentially designing a sequel to Wingspan. Basically said, we need to get Elizabeth's approval. I don't know if this is even possible, but if it is, would you be interested?
I'm assuming you had played Wingspan before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah. I mean, we love Wingspan.
You can't live in DC and not play Wingspan with Elizabeth right there, right?
Well, of course. And I mean, Elizabeth has been, a mentor to me for quite a while now. We're local to each other, which makes things really easy, when designing a game like this. Sure. But yeah, so Stonemaier had been getting a lot of requests for dragons and for spinoffs to Wingspan. And so I think a lot of it came from sort of this fan idea and fan support. And yeah, there was definitely sort of a question of like, oh my gosh, am I the right person to do this? Like, am I capable? Am I competent? Like, there's a lot of imposter syndrome that was kicking in at that point in time. And also kind of a recognition too, that when this game would be announced, it was going to be a big deal and it would get a lot of attention, both positive and negative. And, was that what I wanted? And so there's definitely kind of some of those concerns, but, I ultimately decided to do it. I mean, getting to work with Jamie, getting to work with Elizabeth. I love Wingspan. I love the underlying system. So getting kind of the originator's approval to kind of keep playing around with that system was sort of too good to pass up. And then it really just kind of went from there. And it was sort of a very collaborative process. So, every time I'd get sort of stuck or have issues or questions, I'd go to Elizabeth or go to Jamie. And Elizabeth in particular was really key on the sort of feel issue. I mean, is it too close to Wingspan, too far from Wingspan? How do we kind of capture that magic that makes Wingspan what it is? A lot of it was, Connie, this is way too far away from Wingspan, like rein it back in. That was a lot of it.
Really? Okay, so you're getting directions from Jamie who approached you about that. And a lot of the people may not know that he actually approached you about doing this after working with you on Apiary, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you're getting feedback from Elizabeth, but what were your goals for Wyrmspan? I mean, you're the designer, and yes. Obviously when you're getting kind of it's almost like a spec script here where you've been given an assignment and yep. You've been given some direction. What were your goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of definitely there was a certain amount of overlap between what I wanted and of course what JB and what Elizabeth wanted. I mean, one of the big kind of pieces was, reinvent Wingspan, but with dragons, make it stand alone, but feel like Wingspan, and then also make it a little bit heavier. It was always going to be heavier and a little bit crunchier than Wingspan, sort of for the folks maybe for whom had gotten into the hobby with Wingspan and now are looking for the next step, or maybe folks who just weren't interested in birds. One of the things that I really wanted to add, and this is kind of my own design style and design pedigree, and I think if folks have played Apiary, I think some of the feel of Wyrmspan will be very similar. And that is, I really like combos. I'm a big combo person, and I really like sequencing decisions. Like, you might be doing A, B, and C in a turn, but if it's A, C, B, A, B, C, C, B, A, and so forth, has really consequential impacts. And I think that really comes through in both Apiary and also in Wyrmspan. One of the kind of big feel differences in Wyrmspan is it's a lot less obvious as to, like, for instance, how to get food. In Wingspan, you run the food row, you get food. In Wyrmspan, sometimes you run the food row, sometimes you excavate a cave. There's a sort of cave excavation mechanism. Sometimes you advance on the Dragon Guild and get the food that way. And so it's sort of almost this like kind of lateral thinking where you're just trying to say, okay, if I can go here to go up the Dragon Guild to get this thing, that this will give me this other thing, which will allow me to do a third action, and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of incorporated throughout the design.
Steve, This is singing to me because my buddy over here in the Gumbo Pod is my nephew Jared, and that's the kind of games we love. Any games that have combo wombos that the first time you play, you'll get one or two and they make you feel good, but the more you play them and the more you discover them, sometimes I don't even care about winning. It's just the fact that I put together this really cool combo in the third act of the game. Yep. I get super excited.
And there are lots and lots of combos to be had.
What's up, Tommy? Time Roller checking in. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say one of the big things too that's very, very combo-tastic is this Dragon Guild. So you have sort of the circular track that you're advancing around over the course of the game. And every time you get to either the bottom of the track or the top of the track, you get its big bonus. And these are space limited, so you're sort of competing for other people. They also vary from game to game. There are several different sort of sets of them. And these are big things. I mean, there'll be things like play a dragon for free, excavate a space for free, cover up another dragon, get a bunch of endgame points, things like that. And so kind of sequencing that, getting that right, can really lead into some very, very big turns.
Yeah, I was watching Monique and Naveen's video. Steve, you may not have seen it, but they are friends from Before You Play, right?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
almost forgot the name of the channel there for a second. Anyway, but I was watching their video today, and they really focused in, especially Naveen really focused in on that Dragon Guild. And that part, I think, I haven't played it yet, of course, but that part to me is the one that excites me the most. The fact that you can kind of focus in on a little bit, getting resources as you're going around. And then also it's the way to, it looks like a way to get some in-game scoring too.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
I like when you're giving us choices that we can bounce back, bounce. And how many people are going to spend their time knowing that they can only put 4 cubes, but it's a race to get those 4 cubes, and it's a race to get the best spots on that guild.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not so I got our copy of Wyrmspan on Thursday, I think, and I've played it 4 times since then.
Oh.
And I will say that from personal experience, it is not an easy decision to figure out which of those bonuses to take because they're all really good and you want all of them at any given moment. And so trying to figure out, and the end game scoring can be really powerful too. And so it's hard to ever take the end game scoring. I always want the combos, but you should really, there are a lot of things to consider.
We can't just talk about the gameplay. And Evan points out, we've got this picture up here. We got to talk about the art and the speckled little eggs. Tell us about working with, I'm trying to remember the name.
Clementine, yeah. Clementine Camberdo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm still not 100% sure how to pronounce her name. She's French. But yeah, working with her was absolutely wonderful. So one of the amazing things about Wyrmspan was that she was signed to work on the game pretty much right after I started working on the project. And so the art and the gameplay were designed simultaneously. And so we were both able to sort of work together to do a lot of the background dragon research to really kind of make the game come alive. And so we really kind of worked together on researching dragon lores from different cultures, trying to figure out how to work them into the game. And my mind is still blown. I mean, there's 183 dragons in Wyrmspan. Wow. Every one of them is different. And every one of them came from Clementine's imagination. I mean, we sort of set up a goal at the beginning, X dragons, so many dragons, so many wyverns, so many worms, so many lindworms, so many quaddles, so many amphitheaters, so many drakes, so on and so on. And we set
Ellie
up
says it's the year of the dragon, so this is perfect with 183 different dragons.
But I just cannot say enough good things about how Clementine was able to make these dragons sort of feel real and they feel like of this world. But they're also unique and they all have so much personality, and that personality really comes through on the cards, and they really come through when you're playing the game as well.
It looks like the cavern cards are they different artwork on there too?
Yes. Yeah. So what Clementine actually did was she painted them in big long strips and then kind of cut them up. So you'll sort of see
like Tokaido style. Like you get the emerging tableau, the panorama.
Well, and the amazing thing is you can sort of see this on the picture that's up right now, but the way she sort of put them together, it makes it so that they can all line up, so that any of the cards that you put together kind of look like one continuous panorama. And I think that's just so neat. That was so clever.
Joseph Frederick has a couple of questions. He says, first off, congrats on another hit. Can't wait to play this. Who did the graphic design? Do you know? Yeah,
so her name's Christine. I don't remember her last name. She basically does the graphic design, I think, for most of the Stonemaier games. I believe she was a contractor at one point and is now an employee for them. And so she was the one who did the graphic design for Apiary as well.
Okay. Very cool.
Monique and Naveen said they weren't sure about the hatchlings and weren't able to take advantage of them on their first play. Can you talk about how we should be thinking about how to use hatchlings?
Yeah, absolutely. So hatchlings are some of my favorite dragons.
Christine Santana.
Thank you, David. Yeah, so sorry, the hatchlings. So hatchlings are absolutely amazing. They do require a fair bit of upfront investment, and they do take a little while to pay off. But I think one of the really key elements, so for folks who don't know, because why would you know? Because the game isn't out yet. Hatchlings, they're...
I was trying to find a picture of one.
Yeah. Oh, there's some hatchlings. Those are all hatchlings. So they require an egg, and then they require sort of a hatchling-specific milk, resource milk to play them. And then they all have the sort of 3-part ability. So the first one is kind of your walkover if activated ability. Whenever you explore, you row, you get to do a thing. that's always either caching a milk or caching a meat on the hatchling or tucking a card underneath it. Anytime you do that, you get sort of a special benefit. And then the third time that you do that benefit, you get a big bonus. But the thing that's really key and really clutch to understand about the hatchlings is that the second bonus, that anytime ability. So for the leaf-eating cricket catcher up there, anytime you cache a milk, gain a card, you can do that from anywhere in your cave. So if you have any other ability anywhere in your cave that allows you to cache a milk, say on any dragon in this row, on any dragon in this column, you can use that to charge the hatchlings, which means you can supercharge them.
You really like combos. Oh, wow.
I like combos.
I mean, I can see this.
And if you get to the end of either the yellow or the red tunnel, the red tunnel ability gives you an ability to cache 2 resources on any dragon. The end of the yellow tunnel allows you to tuck 2 cards under any dragon. Those can supercharge your hatchlings. And so I think that's kind of the framework, is that like they are a very big investment up front, but they can absolutely pay off in spades. It's takes a little bit of time getting used to. I will say I played a game last night and there was a hatchling that was absolutely my MVP. I think I managed to tuck or cache like 12 food on it or something like that, which gave me 12 bumps on the Dragon Guild. So they can be so strong if you set them up right.
And this is that Dragon Guild I was telling you about, Steve, right here.
Yes, I love the idea of a rondelle of some sort that you're moving around in any game. And that's a real nice add to this, but there are also some other ones too. I wonder if we could kind of talk about some of those to get people excited about what you've added on the hollow bones of Wingspan to begin with.
Good point. Yeah.
You add the idea that instead of them being habitats, they're caves.
Yep.
But the caves have to be explored and excavated first. So there's that extra layer of cards to create the cave that you then entice your dragons to. What was the thought behind that? Was it just a more layer to make it more gamerly, or what were you thinking?
There was something about it that just clicked with dragons. I mean, we had this idea of building a cave from just about the very first prototype. It was just in there from the beginning, and it changed a lot. I mean, the player mats in Wyrmspan are fairly similar to those in Wingspan. That was actually a fairly late addition. We had a lot of other like building your cave out, so you actually kind of had a blank tableau in front of you and you're building the cave. It just sort of felt very thematic with dragons. And once we kind of had that core concept, we just sort of stuck with it. There's just something that's very kind of evocative about like carving out this hollow mountain and creating a home for a dragon and then walking through it and feeding your dragons and tending to your dragons. It's very evocative. And so it just kind of stuck. So that's definitely one piece of it. And then it's, as I said, the cave cards and the excavation are a really key way to get resources at the beginning of the game. All of the cave cards have a when played ability. So as soon as you play them into your cave, you essentially excavate your cave, you're finding goodies in all of the rubble. And that's a really kind of key way to get your engine started at the beginning.
When I was thinking about dragons, the idea of caverns and the idea of these action coins, that just seems like right out of my childhood, right? I mean, when you think about dragons, the first thing I always thought about is, of course, Smaug or any one of the other dragons from lore. And it's like Scrooge McDuck with tons of coins everywhere, right? Right. Caverns, buried deep inside the side of a mountain. So I'm so glad kind of that you picked up on that, because it just seems to right away you get into the idea that this is a different game. This is the bones of Wingspan, as Steve said, but a different game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then after you've explored the cavern or excavated the cavern, you still have to explore it. So the running of your engine is the person. It's kind of, am I correct? It's kind of flipped from Wingspan, though, that you're going in the opposite direction as you're going into the cave. Can you talk a little bit, because again, that's another layer that makes those folks who wanted the next level game to think, oh, you can do that too. Can you talk about the exploring part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of really cool things about it. So switching.
Toby wants to explore.
Hey, Toby.
Understood. Now, so Wingspan, has a right to left kind of activation. Wyrmspan has left to right activation. And switching to that left to right activation was actually pretty tricky, because basically if you put all of the benefits between the cards, you kind of lose the ability to easily have half steps. So in Wingspan, every card you put basically gives you 1/2 of a step up from the card before it. So at first it's 1 food, then it's 1 food, and you can, I believe, discard a card to get a second food, then it's 2 food. But as soon as you kind of go from left to right, that's a little bit more difficult. But there's a couple of things that I really like about it. And one is this idea of ratcheting cave costs. So in Wyrmspan, you can only enter each cave. You have 3 caves. You can only enter each cave 3 times in a round. The first time you do, it costs 1 coin, which is essentially 1 action point. The second time, it costs a coin and an egg. And the third time, it costs a coin and 2 eggs. And you can't run it any more than that. So you have to sort of plan around to that, which I really, really love. And you have to figure out if it's worth it to spend the eggs, because eggs are a very valuable resource. I think unlike Wingspan, you can actually really run out of eggs, and you can run very short on eggs. And so you need to kind of manage your egg ebb and flow over the course of the game. And then the other thing that I really like is that the 3 rows correspond to the food is the top one, dragon cards is the middle one, cave cards is the bottom one. But those rewards are interspersed in all 3 tunnels with Dragon Guild advancements and with laying eggs. So they're not quite as concentrated. And so again, you're getting kind of resources and benefits that might be desynced with your cave. And so kind of putting your brain in that space of, okay, how am I going to get that? You know, if I walk through my Amethyst Abyss, that's normally associated with cave cards, but I can get this bump on the Dragon Guild, which will give me a dragon card, which then I can play, which will then give me food or something like that.
Right.
That seems like a big change from Wingspan, Steve, because if I remember right, it's been a couple of months since I played Wingspan, but it's much more linear. Each one of the different habitats kind of focuses on that. I like this because now my board might be totally different from your board, even though we're developing the caves the same way.
Yes.
Is that right, Connie?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting which caves people decide to excavate too. So far in the games that I found, it's you do tend to fill up most of your mat over the course of the game. There's only 4 spots. You come pretty close. You can fill it if you want to. It's often not the best play maybe to do it, but there's only 4 dragon spots in each tunnel on this mat as opposed to 5 in Wingspan, so it's easier to fill. But the order that you fill your tunnels will really shape your game. And it's sort of been interesting to see which tunnels or which caves people build out first. So far in, 4 plays, so sample size of 4, people seem to be choosing different paths, which is really exciting. I want to fill up a
map because you know what I hate in Planet Unknown is when I leave like half of the planet unexplored and
it's
I come
in
out
the
in last
title,
place.
BJ. Part of the planet is unknown. You have to leave some of it unknown.
There's so many games though where I'm exploring the map and only get to like a third of it because I'm so bad. And I'm like, I'm disappointed all the fans out there who really wanted all this stuff to be explored. Good night. Thank you for checking in with us, Patrick Newman. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Connie, was that a design focus that we're going to try to get people to really explore this mat?
I think that was more incidental. I mean, I think it was sort of, we wanted to certainly make sure people didn't run out of room. But the other thing too is that we wanted to make the ends of the rows fairly attainable because the ends of all 3 rows have a very big bonus. So the end of the food row, you can cash 2 food on any dragons. End of the card row, you can tuck 2 cards. And then the end of the cave row, you can discard 2 cave cards to lay 4 eggs. So those are big bonuses. So we wanted to make them accessible enough that people would be able to get them early enough in the game to actually get to, run that row and sort of experience to get that bonus.
Yeah. Evan remembers that's the game I played with Jay. Planet Partially Known. That's what I played this summer at ChuckCon. All right, so give us the big wrap up. Tomorrow's the big day. What's your plan? You always hear, Steve, like this the somebody's in a TV show and then they plan the big watch party with all their friends to watch the debut of the show, right? What's Connie's plan for tomorrow? Let's make Wayne jealous about what you're going to be doing when this thing goes live. There you go.
I don't think I'm going to make anyone jealous. I'm going to work tomorrow. So.
Oh no!
As I said, I actually did take the day off when all of the reviews posted because that was the one that was just really, really stressful. And
tomorrow's nothing. You can't do anything about it tomorrow.
I can't do anything about it. I mean, fingers crossed. I hope it goes well. I'm really eager to see what people think of the game over the next few weeks as they start getting their copies. But yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm just going to work tomorrow, so I don't really have anything exciting.
Well, there's a bunch of people tomorrow from here in Acadiana, here in Louisiana, that already have their clock set. So it's going to be a big day for Stonemaier here in Louisiana. We've got the Gumbo Overlord knocking on our door, Steve.
Oh,
that can only mean one
answer
thing,
that
right?
door.
Oh, we should answer that door.
Yeah.
Hey, there she is. Verla's in.
Hey, Verla.
Connie, Verla. If
Hi,
Verla's
Chris.
here, that must mean something, Verla. What are we going to be doing?
Oh, we're going to be playing a game.
It's a game. Connie, this is a game about board games. I mean, this is a show about board games. We got to play a board game, right?
Let's do it.
We may still have some questions from people in the chat, so we'll keep answering them. Look, there's Jeremy checking. He's ready. He's got 2 alarm clocks set, and I'm talking about the alarm clocks you get from Service Merchandise, like the old style that you have a little button on top. He's got that set ready to go for 9:15 here in Louisiana to get it. Oh, DJ Bell, check Jay. I'm telling you, Steve. We just mentioned some of these names, and they pop up in the chat.
There you go.
They're like genies in a bottle.
I dropped the Stonemaier link back in there just as a little reminder to folks. So, what you're waiting for tomorrow, click that link.
Yeah, let me get that set up. That's right. Make sure you check out stonemeiergames.com/game/Wyrmspan. Tomorrow it should be live. I can't remember the exact times for every part of the country because it goes all over the world. But The good news is they're already in the warehouse, right, Connie? These games are going to be going out to people.
Oh, yep. I got my copy last week from the freight shipment, so they're ready to go. I think they've said
a
that
copy already.
I guess it's designer's privilege.
Right.
But yeah, so they've said that they'll start shipping basically immediately, but it will potentially take them, most of the month to get all of the copies out. So just kind of
Can't wait.
TBD.
I don't know if you saw, Steve.